Put that thing out of my face.
You want to do it again? Fuck you, asshole. What the hell?
Let go.
Let go of this stuff.
I'm calling the police.
Good. Yes, I don't think you should have touched the camera equipment. Absolutely don't.
No, that's unlawful, not should.
Stop talking over me.
No.
I've asked you to stop.
Stop.
So
Let him go.
what I'm saying is that it's a property crime. What happened is you.
Don't move! A burst of pepper spray hits the elderly man straight in the face and the crowd erupts in shock. Right outside a busy street scene, cameras are shoved inches from his face, officers pushing people back, voices overlapping. The man isn't aggressive, just overwhelmed, trying to breathe, trying to get space. He raises a hand to block the camera, nothing more, and that's all it takes. Officer Ryan Mills treats it like a threat. No warning, no pause, just force. An elderly man, clearly distressed, now coughing and blinded, punished for asking for distance. Then suddenly, sirens cut through the noise. A sheriff's vehicle pulls up hard. Deputies rush in, but one of them freezes the moment he sees the man on the ground. His voice drops, tense, almost stunned. Wait, do you even know who you just sprayed? Before we go anywhere further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The deputy doesn't move for a second. He's staring, really staring at the man on the ground, blinking through the burning spray, trying to steady his breathing. Officer Mills scoffs, still holding the canister. He wouldn't comply. I gave him a clear command. But the deputy barely acknowledges him. Instead, he steps forward quickly, pushing past the edge of the crowd. Sir, hey, stay with me. His tone is completely different now. Lower, careful, almost urgent. The elderly man nods once, wiping at his eyes with the sleeve of his jacket. His face is red, strained, but controlled. Too controlled for someone who just got hit like that. I'm fine, he manages, voice rough. Just give me a second. Someone in the crowd shouts, that officer just sprayed him for nothing. Another voice cuts in, louder. We got it on video. Phones lift higher. The circle tightens. For the first time, Officer Mills looks around, not at the man, but at the people watching him. You're all interfering now, he snaps, trying to regain control. Back up. But the energy has shifted. It's no longer just a routine confrontation. There's tension in the air, thick, uncomfortable, growing by the second. The deputy turns his head slightly, eyes still locked on the man. What's your name, sir? A pause. The man inhales slowly, steadying himself before answering. Carter. The deputy freezes for just a fraction of a second. Then he straightens, reaching for his radio without breaking eye contact. Supervisor, I need you here now. Officer Mills frowns. For what? I've got this handled. The deputy finally looks at him sharp, direct. No, he says quietly, you really don't. And as the sound of another approaching siren echoes closer, the crowd falls into a tense silence because something about this man isn't adding up. The silence doesn't last long. The second sheriff's vehicle arrives fast, two fast brakes, screaming as it pulls in behind the first unit. Doors swing open before it fully stops. A senior sheriff steps out immediately, scanning the scene with a hard, practiced look, the kind that comes from years of reading situations in seconds. Then his eyes land on the elderly man, and everything in his face changes. Not confusion. Recognition. He walks straight past Officer Mills without a word, ignoring the officer's attempt to step forward. Sir, the sheriff says, voice instantly respectful, I need a status report on you right now. Mills blinks. Wait, what? He's the one who escalated this? But nobody responds to him. The deputy is already moving closer to the elderly man, offering water, steadying him carefully as he tries to clear his vision. The man exhales slowly, still calm despite the pain. I asked for space. That's all. Cameras were pushed right into my face. The sheriff nods once, absorbing every word. Then he turns slowly toward Officer Mills. And the tone shifts completely. You sprayed him, he says quietly, without verifying who he was. Mills stiffens. He's just a civilian refusing orders. A pause. That's when the sheriff says it. He's not just a civilian. The words land heavy. The crowd leans in, phone still recording, sensing the shift before understanding it. Mills' expression flickers. What are you talking about? The sheriff doesn't blink. Daniel Carter, former senior FBI field operations. A beat of silence. Then it breaks. People start whispering instantly, shock rippling through the crowd like a wave. Mills takes a half step back. That's not why wasn't I told? But the sheriff cuts him off sharply. You didn't ask. The elderly man finally looks up through still stinging eyes, calm, controlled, watching everything unfold like he's seen worse before. And then the sheriff adds, quieter but far heavier. And right now, you're going to explain to me why you thought that was necessary force against one of our most experienced former agents. Officer Mills opens his mouth, but no words come out because behind him, someone in the crowd is already saying it loud enough for everyone to hear. This just turned into something way bigger than a street stop. And the sheriff slowly reaches for his radio again. And I don't think he understands what he just did. The sheriff doesn't take his eyes off Officer Mills. Not for a second. The air feels tighter now, like the entire street has shrunk around a single mistake that can't be undone. Mills finally finds his voice. I didn't know who he was. He was non-compliant. He moved toward the camera. The deputy immediately cuts in. He didn't move toward you. He moved the camera away from his face. That sentence hits harder than the spray ever did. The crowd reacts instantly. Small gasps, murmurs, phones shifting to capture Mills instead of the scene. The sheriff raises a hand slightly, silencing the noise. Then he turns back to Daniel Carter. Sir, are you able to confirm you did not present a threat? Carter slowly nods, still blinking through irritation but composed. I asked for personal space, repeatedly. That calm tone, no anger, no exaggeration, makes it worse for Mills. Because it sounds like truth without effort. The sheriff exhales through his nose, controlled but visibly disappointed. He steps closer to Mills, lowering his voice, but not enough for it to be private. You escalated on an unverified threat. You used chemical force on a retired federal agent, in front of witnesses, in front of cameras. Mills tries to interrupt. Sir, No, the sheriff snaps, sharper now. You don't get to sir your way out of this. A beat. The crowd goes silent again. Carter finally stands a little straighter, wiping his eyes slowly. The pain is still there, but now so is awareness. He looks at Mills for the first time directly. Not angry. Just assessing. You reacted before understanding the situation, Carter says quietly. That line lands heavier than any accusation. Mills swallows hard. I followed what I thought was protocol. Carter tilts his head slightly. Protocol requires judgment. A long pause. Then another siren sound in the distance. Closer this time. The sheriff glances over his shoulder, then back at Carter. And what he says next changes the entire direction of the scene. This isn't just going to be an on-scene correction anymore. He pauses. Internal affairs is already on the way. Officer Mills' face tightens for the first time because he realizes this isn't being handled quietly anymore. And as the crowd shifts again, someone in the back suddenly shouts, wait, if he's FBI, why was he even here alone? Every head turns back toward Carter, including Mills, and Carter doesn't answer immediately. He just looks down the street like he's remembering something he hasn't said yet. And that's when the sheriff quietly adds, Sir, what exactly were you doing here today? Carter doesn't answer right away. That hesitation alone changes the temperature of the entire scene. The crowd notices it. Mills notices it. Even the sheriff narrows his eyes slightly, waiting. Finally, Carter exhales slowly and adjusts his jacket, still steady despite the irritation in his eyes. I was meeting someone, he says simply. That's it. No details, no explanation, which only makes it worse. Mills jumps on it immediately. See? He's not even cooperating now. I told you he was obstructing. The sheriff cuts him off without even looking at him. Stop talking. That silence hits harder than the spray ever did. The deputy steps slightly closer to Carter, speaking carefully now. Sir, was this an arranged meeting with law enforcement? Carter pauses again. A fraction too long. Then, not officially. That sentence ripples through the crowd instantly. Phones tilt. Whispering grows louder. Mills straightens, sensing a lifeline. So he's admitting he was interfering, but the sheriff turns sharply. Enough. The word snaps like a warning shot. He walks a few steps away, speaking low into his radio. Static crackles. Urgency builds. Then he turns back, expression tighter now. Dispatch confirms something, he says slowly. Mills watches him closely. What? The sheriff doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he looks at Carter again, then back at Mills, and finally says, the man you sprayed wasn't just retired FBI. A pause. The crowd leans in. Mills frowns. What does that mean? The sheriff's voice drops. It means you didn't just escalate a stop. Another pause. You escalated a federal level protected individual. The words don't fully land at first. Then they do. Mills's expression shifts confusion, turning into something far more unstable. Protected? No one said, but the sheriff interrupts again, colder now. No one needed to say it. Carter finally looks up fully, meeting Mills's eyes for the first time since it happened. And his voice is quiet but absolute. You didn't ask who I was, he says. You assumed I was nobody. A beat. The weight of that sentence hangs in the air like a verdict waiting to be signed. Then another vehicle pulls up at the edge of the scene. Different this time. Unmarked. And as the doors open, the sheriff quietly mutters, and now it's officially out of our hands. Mills turns sharply. What does that mean? But no one answers him, because everyone is already watching the newcomers step out and walk directly toward Carter. The moment the unmarked vehicle doors shut behind them, the entire street feels different. Quieter, heavier, controlled. Two men in plain dark jackets step forward first, scanning the scene once, quick, efficient, before locking in on Daniel Carter. No hesitation, no confusion, just recognition. Officer Mills notices it immediately. Who are they? He asks sharply, trying to regain footing. The sheriff doesn't look at him. Not your concern anymore. That answer lands like a lock clicking shut. One of the men approaches Carter directly, lowering his voice. Mr. Carter, are you injured beyond what's visible? Carter blinks slowly. I'll be fine. The man nods once, then glances toward Mills, brief, cold, evaluating. That glance alone makes Mills stiffen. The second man steps closer to the sheriff, speaking quietly but fast. The sheriff listens, then exhales through his nose like he's just confirmed something he already feared. Carter wipes his face again, still composed, but now clearly aware of the shift around him. Mills finally snaps, voice cracking slightly. Someone tell me what is going on right now. I'm the responding officer. No one responds. Not even the crowd anymore. Because they can feel it too. This is no longer a local incident. The first plainclothes agent turns slightly toward Mills. You made contact with Daniel Carter, he says flatly. Mills nods quickly. Yes, because he was resisting instructions. The agent interrupts without raising his voice. You deployed chemical spray on a retired FBI supervisory agent with active federal advisory clearance. That sentence drains the color from Mills' face. Active what? He whispers. The sheriff finally turns to him fully now. And what he says next is slower, deliberate. You didn't just spray an elderly man. A pause. You sprayed someone who still advises federal operations when requested. The crowd reacts instantly, shock breaking into open disbelief. Mills takes a step back. No, that's not. Why would he be here alone then? Carter finally speaks again, voice calm but edged with something colder now. Because I asked to be left alone. Silence. The two agents exchange a look. Then the first one says quietly, "That's going to be difficult, sir, because this is now an internal federal escalation review." Mills stares at them, breath uneven now. Internal what? The sheriff steps closer to him. And this time, there's no anger, just finality. "You are no longer the responding officer in this situation." A beat. "You are the subject of it." And as those words settle in, the second agent pulls out a small notepad and says, almost casually, "Officer Mills, walk us through exactly why you chose force without verification." Mills opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. Because for the first time since it started, he realizes he's no longer controlling the story at all. And Carter, standing quietly beside them, watches in silence as everything begins to turn. Mills stands frozen for a moment, like he's waiting for someone to interrupt this, someone to tell him it's a misunderstanding. But nobody does. The second agent repeats the question, calmer this time. "Walk us through your decision to deploy pepper spray." Mills swallows hard. He moved toward the camera. He raised his hand. "I perceived a threat." The first agent doesn't react emotionally. He just writes, "That silence is worse than shouting." The sheriff finally steps in, voice steady but firm. "There were multiple witnesses, multiple angles. You had time to assess and you didn't." Mills turns slightly, looking at the crowd now like he's searching for backup, but all he sees are phones, still recording, still pointed at him. Carter shifts slightly, still recovering, but now fully alert to what's unfolding. He doesn't look angry, just disappointed in a way that's harder to escape. The first agent looks up. "Did you identify the subject before using force?" Mills hesitates. That hesitation is enough. "No," he admits quietly. A ripple moves through the crowd again. The agent nods once, writing it down. The sheriff exhales slowly. "That's your first problem." Mills tries to recover. "I didn't have time. He wasn't complying." Carter interrupts him, calm but precise. "I asked you for space." That simple correction cuts through everything. Mills looks at him, frustrated now. "You pushed my camera away." Carter nods slightly. "Because it was inches from my face. That's not resistance. That's discomfort." Another silence. The second agent closes his notepad briefly. "Officer Mills, do you understand who you made contact with now?" Mills doesn't answer immediately. His jaw tightens. "I understand he's some retired federal agent. That doesn't change what happened in the moment." That statement hangs in the air until the sheriff responds quietly. "It changes everything about the moment." A beat. Then the first agent finally steps closer to Mills, lowering his voice just enough that the crowd still hears fragments. "You escalated force against someone with federal advisory clearance and prior field authority over use of force training standards." Mills' expression shifts confusion, then realization trying to form but not landing cleanly. "What does that even mean?" he mutters. Carter looks at him directly now. And for the first time, there's weight behind his calm. "It means," Carter says quietly, "you used force on someone who helped write the rules you were supposed to follow." That lands differently. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. The sheriff steps back slightly, radio already in hand. And then, almost as an afterthought, he says, "This is going to require formal federal review, on-site footage seizure, and a full conduct board." Mills's breathing changes now noticeable, uneven. "Wait, board? This was a street stop." The first agent cuts him off again. "It stopped being a street stop the second you failed to identify your subject." A pause. Then the agent adds quieter, And it became an incident the moment you used force on the wrong man. Mills looks around again like the ground might offer an answer. But all he sees is Carter, standing quietly, still recovering, still composed. And Carter says nothing more. He doesn't need to. Because now everyone understands this wasn't just a mistake made in seconds. It was a decision that's going to follow Mills far longer than this street ever will. And as the sheriff steps away to make another call, one final question hangs in the air. Not from authority, not from procedure, but from the crowd watching it all unfold. What happens to him now?